Well, here we are. You'll remember some weeks ago I bought this hay tedder, and it had one wheel missing, and it was standing on one wheel and the other one was just standing on a block of wood, as you see from the photograph. The bit that was missing, this bit was there, but it was snapped off there and obviously been welded, but not very successfully because it had snapped off again. So a local bloke in a shed who's got a rather tasty sized MIG welder has welded round here, has cut the old rod off completely and welded in, as you can see, a complete new piece of rod, because the actual this goes through a hole in the turner and swivels like that. So he's put the new rod in. The only thing is the piece of rod that he got is not as big as the original one. So he's also made a sleeve, which is here, out of some metal. This is a no-cost repair, I have to say. So this sleeve fits over there, like that. These two pieces of plastic are obviously sort of bearing surfaces that go over that and sit inside the tube on the hay turner. Rather cleverly in the design of this whole thing is this thing here. This fits onto the rod like that and has a roll pin that goes through. So the roll pin goes through here. And this bar here has a spring on each side, so it means when you lift up out of the work that you're doing, it flicks the wheel to straight. So when you put back into work, rather than the wheel just sort of hanging and being in any direction, the wheel is actually facing front to back and takes some of the wear off this problem area here. As you can see, there's a mighty weld in there, and there's plenty of welding has gone into the two bearing surfaces between that rod and the actual casting here. So I'm living in hopes that when we put this back together, which I'll try and film, it's all going to work. But it is slightly on the Heath Robinson end of the scale, but I think it's going to be man enough for the job. Let's see. Right, well, here we are back at the coalface. After much jiggling, we're sort of getting to the stage where it's all sort of kind of going back together, but not quite. I've got a roll pin here which has to go through the whole concoction. I'm trying to get it all together. One, it's a tight fit. But you can see how this sort of goes together, this blooming thing. Stuff it under it on gravel, which is rather irritating. Would you believe it? The holes are almost sort of lining up, but not quite. I've got to get that cursed roll pin through this casting, and I think that's going to be a bit of a battle. Partly because the wooden block is in the way. By about a gnat's measure. sure this thing is going to work perfectly one day. Whether it will be in my ownership or not is a different story, but what have we got to do here? Well, the next job is to try to get the holes all lined up under this wheel. And it's always the way. It doesn't quite seem to want to do it. I'm trying to get them to line up without me getting squashed on the way through. We live in hopes that what I have to do is line this hole up. I've got a nail in there at the moment. Try and get the roll pin, which I have a feeling is going to be an absolute swine to get in, to get the hole all lined up that it's going to go in. I don't have any great hopes that's going to happen, but I've chamfered the roll pin down a bit to see if we can get it in. I can see through the hole, so it's elements are sort of reasonable but not guaranteed. Well, I'm just giving everything a good squirty W. Just hoping that might have the desired effect in lubricating the roll pin in the hole. There it goes. As engineers would probably say, it probably isn't going to come out again. And not the way it's gone in, which is probably a good thing, because the last thing you want is to return in hay. The roll pin drops out and everything else drops out with it. So the next thing is to get these springs on. That's one. I just need to find the other one. It's kicking around here somewhere. Right, so I've found the other spring. So I just find it as one thing. Fitting it is another thing. That's my head. And something tight. There we are. So, I'll just get that piece of rust out my contact lenses, but let's try and lift everything up a bit. This jack is a little on the small side for this job, but to some degree it does have its advantages. Double checking. The roll pin all seems to be in. So far so good. I think the next job I'll do is to get that trolley jack out of the way and get the wheel on. Well, I've now got the wheel, which is there. Right, I've just moved you around a bit so you can see what I'm doing. This is the axle the wheel goes on. Should have a spring washer in it. That isn't quite on. That's better. Right, there we are. This hub nut goes on like so. Theory being, when it's done up tight, it should stop the grime and dust from the crop getting into the bearing. Right, okay. That's alright, isn't it? That looks okay. That's turning like it should, bearing in mind at this stage it has no grease in it, so I think the next job is to give it a good old sniff of grease. Right. I've actually, oh well, plenty of grease there. What I think I shall do is to get the weight off this spindle. Just pick it up on here with the other jack so I can really get some grease into that joint. I suspect its problems have been a bit grease related, but I might be wrong. We shall see. Just one little lesson is, never put a piece of machinery down onto gravel if you're going to work on it. Right, let's push this trolley jack back under here. I don't think this trolley jack is going to be tall enough to pick this up, but it's on the little one at the moment, so I think hopefully I can just do something like that. Let the small jack down. It's not quite high enough. Oh, that's not so handy, is it? Let's try again. We missed the target. Goodness me, there's some serious straw carting going on this afternoon over here in Suffolk. I think the forecasted rain tomorrow seems to have made everybody a bit nervous. You can see now, when you let go of the wheel, the springs are pulling it into being straight, which is what this rather complicated, which looks so simple, complicated process is all about. Let's give it another shot of the old go-go juice. Let's see if we can. The grease seems to be having the desired effect. The wheel is turning nicely. That was all seized up, but that's turning okay. So I feel fairly okay with that. Right, got the grease off my paws to some degree. I'm now going to let this down, which will hopefully, that's better. Let's just have another, there's grease coming out the top as well. Let me just give another little pump. Try to grease, that's better. All the dirt is going to stick to it, which is not ideal. So in view of that, I think I might just, bear with me a minute, just get some paper from the workshop and take the excess off. So we're going to have a bit of a mud pie in there if we just leave it like that. But there is grease coming out the top, so it means it greases all the way through it. Right, we're now looking at the other wheel, and I'm just trying a bit of a clean up. I'm just trying to get the valve cap off. I think I need to blow this tyre up because it hasn't got much wind in it. Also need to get some grease into that swivel. Well, as you can see, I've repositioned the jack now, so we're under this wheel. I'm just having a look. Oh, look. To see how it's all going. I'll grease that up. It's not the smoothest. Bearings are good. And I've got this all greased in here. As you can, there's a squeak there somewhere. I don't like squeaks. But there's grease coming out the bottom and out the top. I might just give that another little squirty squirt in there, just to be absolutely sure. Trouble, this turner has been left for probably, the chap that gave it to me said 10 years, but I think you could probably double that last time it was used. So yeah, that's been it. Seems to be working. Right, okay. The next job I think is to find the WD-40, which I've got in the workshop here, and give it a little spray. If you've ever used WD-40 and you find the cans run out of puff, and you find it a bit pricey, if you buy it by the gallon, I tend to be a fairly liberal user of it, as you can see. You put it into an ordinary garden squirter, it rots all the O-rings out. But if you buy one of these, a Worth, I think it's a sort of brake cleaner squirter thing, it's empty, and put WD-40 in, it lasts for years. And you can sort of squirt it about quite liberally. I'm fairly happy with that, mate. Looks good. Okay, let's put it back on its feet. I think that's the next thing. Get the jack out from underneath. I hope it's not going to rain in between times. Well, there we are. Both wheels on. Both tyres on, pumped up. Everything greased. That was a job in itself, but it's done. All that's left now is to sort these cursed tines out. There should be 4 tines on the end of each arm, and there are 5 arms. Apparently it works with 3 tines, but I have the box of tines from eBay, so that's the next job, is grovelling around in the gravel, putting some tines on. And it's about to rain, so I think that's enough for today.